The forest was quiet, too quiet for a place that was usually full of night sounds. No insects, no birds, no wind. Only a strange, heavy vibration in the air, like something large was coming closer. Every few seconds, the ground gave a soft, deep tremble, as if a giant heartbeat was shaking the soil. Far above the dark trees, a shadow passed across the two moons. Then another, and another. The red dragon pack had arrived. They did not fly with grace tonight. They moved with fury. Their wings beat the air like thunder, pushing aside clouds as if they were nothing. Their eyes burned with one single emotion, rage. Someone had taken their hatchlings, and the red dragons never forgave such things. The pack landed one by one, shaking dust from leaves and sending broken sticks flying across the forest floor. Their claws sliced the ground, leaving thick marks in the dirt. The leader, a massive dragon named Razgur, stepped forward. His scales glowed like burning embers, and smoke curled from his nostrils with every breath. He lowered his head toward a thin trail of scent that drifted in the air. It was faint, but he knew it too well, the smell of his missing young. "We are close," Razgur growled in his deep, rumbling voice. The others spread out without a word. They checked the trees, the ground, the broken branches. Every step they took was loud, slow, and dangerous. These dragons did not hide themselves. They wanted the kidnapper to know they were coming. But the forest was empty. It felt abandoned, until one of the younger dragons let out a sharp hiss. "There," she said. Her tail pointed toward a small camp hidden between fallen trees and burned bushes. The dragons moved as one. The ground shook with their approach as they walked toward the camp. A soft smell of smoke hit their noses. Something had burned here recently. A torn white cloth also hung from a branch, moving weakly in the cold air. It was a human camp. Every dragon in the pack stopped. Humans were trouble. Humans destroyed. Humans hunted. Many dragons believed humans had no heart. And now, one of them dared to touch their babies? Razgur pushed forward and stepped into the camp. He lowered his head and sniffed the air again. Blood, smoke, fear, but also something strange, something warm, something soft. He moved toward a half-burned tent and tapped it open with one claw. The tent side fell apart like paper. Ash rose into the air. Inside, a single human lay on the ground, unconscious. Razgur's eyes narrowed. "Is he dead?" The healer dragon stepped forward and sniffed. "No, he breathes, but weak." The dragons growled low, not sure if they should tear the human apart or wait. But then a small sound stopped them all. A tiny chirp, then another, then a third. Every dragon froze. Slowly, very slowly, Razgur moved closer and lowered his head. His bright red eyes widened in shock. There, right on the human's chest, lay 3 small dragon hatchlings, curled up like sleeping kittens. Their tails were wrapped around the man's arms, as if those arms were part of their nest. Their tiny bodies rose and fell gently with each soft breath. One hatchling had his head tucked under the human's chin, sleeping peacefully. Another had spread across the human's ribs like he was trying to hug him. The smallest one had both wings stretched across the man's chest, as if protecting him. Razgur stepped back, completely stunned. What is this? The other dragons crowded around the tent opening, their huge heads pushing in. Every one of them went silent. The forest, the wind, the night, everything felt still. It was impossible. Hatchlings never behaved like this. Baby dragons did not trust humans. They feared them. They cried at their scent. But these hatchlings slept like they had never felt safer. The dragon stared at the human again. He was injured. His hands were bloody, but not with dragon blood. His clothes were torn. His face was scratched. A broken shield lay beside him, and next to him, on the floor, was a small human medkit, empty. The healer whispered, "He helped them?" Razgur did not answer. He could not. Nothing made sense that if the human had kidnapped them, the babies would cry and fight. If he had hurt them, they would scream. If he had frightened them, they would hide. But they were sleeping. On him, trusting him, holding him like he was part of their family. A young dragon snarled, confused and angry. Leader, what do we do? Is he enemy? Is he friend? Why are our babies? Razgar shut her up with a single sharp look. He stepped inside the camp again and lowered his massive head until his nose almost touched the hatchlings. They smelled healthy, safe, no fear, only warmth and trust. This is wrong, Razgar whispered. This should not happen. He lifted his gaze to the sleeping human. What are you, human? He muttered. And why did our children choose you? The pack waited for an order. Should they kill the human? Should they take their babies? Should they burn the camp? Razgar did not know. He only knew one thing. The story tonight was not what they expected, and nothing in their world would be the same after this. The night grew colder as the dragons surrounded the silent camp. Their glowing eyes watched every small movement, every shift of smoke, every soft breath coming from the unconscious human. But Razgar, the pack leader, kept staring at the three hatchlings resting on the man's chest. They had chosen him, chosen a human. That alone broke every rule the dragons believed in. Razgar breathed out a low stream of smoke, deep in thought. Something about this man felt wrong, or maybe it felt too right. The healer dragon stepped closer. Leader, I see something strange. Razgar turned. What now? The healer pointed at the human's arm. A thin, half-burned bandage was wrapped around it. Human medicine. Badly done, but clearly meant to stop bleeding. Not his own bleeding. A hatchling's wound. Razgar stiffened. Explain. The healer took a slow breath. His arm is cut, but the cut is in the shape of a dragon bite. A tiny one. A baby bite. Razgar's eyes narrowed. So the hatchling bit him? Yes, the healer said softly. And he let them. The dragons whisper among themselves. No human allowed a dragon to wound them on purpose. No human stayed still when a baby dragon panicked. They always pushed them away. Or worse, used that moment to steal them. But this human, he let the baby bite him. He stayed. He didn't leave them alone. Razgar stepped back, confused and shaken. Why would a human take pain for our young? No one had an answer. And then something strange happened. The smallest hatchling, the one with the wings spread protectively over the man, shifted in its sleep. It let out a tiny whimper, a sad, frightened sound, and the human responded, even unconscious. His hand moved weakly and touched the hatchling's back, like he was comforting it. Every dragon froze. The pack healer whispered, Leader, he cares for them, even now. Razgar did not like this truth, but he could not ignore it. Something deeper was happening here, something that made even his ancient instincts feel unsettled. This makes no sense, Razgar growled, pacing. Humans fear us. Humans hurt us. Humans hunt our eggs. The young dragon beside him swallowed hard. Then why does this one feel different? There was no answer, only questions. Far away from the present, in the human's memories, everything was chaos. He had been running through the storm, running through mud and fire, running with a single thought in his heart. I must save them. His name was Evanhale, a simple explorer, not a soldier, not a dragon hunter. He was a man who had never believed in violence. But that night, he was running through hell. He had found the hatchlings after hearing their cries echo across the storm. The sound had cut straight through him, sharp, desperate, painful. When he reached the clearing, he saw 3 tiny dragons trapped in a broken metal cage. The poachers had left the cage to come back later. The babies had been hurt. Their wings were torn, their scales burned by electric traps. They were shaking, frightened, crying for help. Evan had frozen in shock. He knew dragons. He had studied them from afar. He respected them. He never thought he would touch one, but now 3 were staring at him with terrified eyes. Lightning flashed above him. Rain hit his face. But something inside him shifted. Something powerful. He whispered softly to babies, It's okay. I won't hurt you. The hatchlings hissed at first, confused and scared. But Evan didn't leave. He didn't shout. He didn't try to grab them. He simply knelt and waited. Slowly, painfully, the babies moved closer. One rubbed its head against his arm. Another pulled on his sleeve with tiny claws. The smallest one crawled into his lap and cried softly, as if begging for warmth. Evan wrapped him in his jacket and lifted them up. They were cold, too cold. He carried them through the storm as fast as his legs could move. He slipped, he fell, he bled, but he never let them go. He whispered to them again and again, "Hold on, please hold on." At one point, the smallest hatchling panicked and bit his arm. Hard, but Evan didn't push it away. He just held it closer. "It's okay," he said even through the pain. "You're scared. I know." That moment, the dragons didn't know it yet, had changed everything. Back to the present. Razgar felt a strange ache in his chest as he watched the human breathe. He didn't like the feeling. Not at all. He stared at his babies again, seeing their peaceful sleep, their trust, their warmth. They looked happy. A human had made them happy. That truth tasted like fire in Razgar's throat. The young dragon spoke again, voice trembling. "Leader, what if this human saved them?" Razgar shut his eyes. He didn't want to believe it. He didn't want to imagine a world where a human had kindness inside him. But the evidence was everywhere. The babies sleeping peacefully. The human's injuries. The empty medkit. The tiny bite mark on his arm. The way the hatchlings held on to him as if he belonged to them. "This changes nothing," Razgar whispered. But it did, and every dragon knew it. They were no longer hunting a kidnapper. They were facing a mystery. A human who had risked everything to protect 3 dragon babies. And that was more dangerous and more powerful than any enemy they had ever known. The forest felt colder now, as if even the night feared what was happening. The red dragon pack formed a wide circle around the ruined camp. No dragon blinked. No dragon spoke. Their eyes glowed like burning coals in the dark, locked on the sleeping hatchlings and the unconscious human who held them. Razgar's tail dragged slowly across the ground as he paced. He hated this feeling. Confusion. Doubt. The idea that a human might not be an enemy. Felt like poison. He turned toward his pack. "Prepare yourselves. We take the hatchlings now." But the healer stepped forward shakily. "Leader, that may not be easy." Razgar snapped. "They are babies. They obey us." The healer swallowed. "Not right now." A low growl rolled through Razgar's chest. He didn't like riddles tonight. Not when his children were involved. "Explain." The healer pointed with her wing. "Watch." Razgar moved closer to human again, his huge shadow falling over the small group on the ground. The hatchlings remained asleep until Razgar reached out a claw and gently touched the smallest one. The baby's eyes snapped open. For 1 second, everything was silent. Then the hatchling let out a tiny, sharp, protective roar. Every dragon froze. Razgar blinked, confused. "He roared at me?" The healer nodded. "Yes, and look." The smallest hatchling spread his little wings wide and crawled farther on the human's chest, placing himself between Razgar and the man, like a shield. The other 2 hatchlings woke up too, their eyes glowing faintly. They didn't cry. They didn't call for their parents. They hissed at the dragons, at their own pack. Razgar stepped back, more shaken than he cared to admit. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They defend him?" The youngest dragon in the pack, a fiery-tempered female named Zaira, bared her teeth. "This human has tricked them. Used magic, poison, something unnatural." Razgar did not deny it. Not because he believed it, but because he needed some explanation. But then the healer's voice cut through the tension, soft but steady. "Leader, there's no magic here. There's only trust." The young dragons growled at her. Trust. With a human, but the healer stood firm. Look at them. They're breathing. Their eyes. Their bodies. This is not fear. This is attachment. Razgar stared again. He could see it now. The way the hatchlings pressed their bodies against the man, how they curled around his arms, how their tiny claws held his shirt. They were not clinging in panic. They were clinging in safety. Razgar's chest felt tight. He didn't like this. Not one bit. Zaira slammed her tail into the ground. "Leader, say the word. I will tear him apart." The hatchlings reacted instantly. All three tiny dragons flared their wings and hissed so loudly it echoed across the forest. One even snapped at Zaira's approaching claw. Zaira jumped back, shocked. What? They attacked me? Razgar felt something cold travel up his spine. He looked down at his children, his own flesh, his own blood, and they were fighting him. For a human, this was no trick, no spell, no poison. Something deeper connected them. Razgar lowered his massive head until his eyes were level with the human's face. The man's breathing was soft, weak, but steady. His skin was bruised and cut. He had fought something dangerous, hard, long. Razgar slowly inhaled. And then he smelled it. Fear, pain, exhaustion, but also something else. Sacrifice, a scent dragons knew well. The scent a parent carried after protecting their young. Razgar jerked his head back as if burned. The healer whispered, Leader, your hatchlings see him as family. The word struck like lightning. A human. Family to dragons? Unthinkable. Unnatural. Impossible. Zaira hissed he stole them. He forced them. This is lies. The healer shook her head. Babies do not lie. The pack fell silent. Razgar stood still, trying to understand, trying to fight the truth burning in his chest. This was not the story he expected. He had come for revenge, for blood, for justice. But instead, he found a human lie in the dirt, half dead, because he had saved dragon babies from monsters far worse than anything the dragons imagined. Razgar turned sharply to his pack. No one touches a human, he commanded. The pack gasped. Zaira roared, Leader, he is human. Razgar growled, the forest trembling under his voice. Yes, he is human, but he did what we failed to do. He protected our children. The words tasted bitter, but they were true. For the first time in centuries, a dragon pack stepped back from a human. But that moment of peace shattered as a distant echo rolled through the forest. A sharp metal click, a sound that did not belong to dragons. A sound that made Razgar's head snap up. The healer whispered, Leader, that is a weapon being loaded. Razgar's eyes narrowed. Poachers. Another click. Closer. Louder. The hatchlings tensed. The human's breathing hitched. And from the darkness, a voice laughed. Well, the poacher sneered. Looks like we found a whole family. The dragons turned as one, their wings spreading wide. The pack had seen the human as a confusion, but the poachers would see him as a target. And the hatchlings? A prize. Razgar's eyes blazed. Protect the young. The red dragon pack unleashed a roar that shook the heavens. The real danger had arrived. The forest exploded with noise as the poachers' cold laughter echoed between the trees. Even the shadows seemed pulled back, afraid of what was coming. The red dragon pack turned sharply, wings spreading, claws digging into the earth. Their eyes burned with fire and fury. But Razgar wasn't looking at the poachers. He was looking at his hatchlings. And the human, the three babies clung tighter to the unconscious man's chest, their small bodies trembling as danger approached. That sight sent a wave of emotion through Razgar, so fierce that he felt his chest tighten. His hatchlings were frightened, and they were frightened for the human. This truth shook him more than the poacher's weapons. Zaira, still angry and confused, hissed, Leader, we strike them now. Why do you delay? But the healer spoke before Razgar could answer. Leader, you must see this. Razgar turned to her sharply. Now is not the time for riddles. The healer didn't flinch. If you want to understand why your children chose him, then yes, Leader, it is the time. Razgar growled in frustration, but gave a tight nod. Show me. The healer stepped closer to the human. She gently lifted the cloth of his torn shirt, exposing his side. Every dragon leaned in as the healer revealed several long, deep cuts, fresh, bleeding, painful. These are not dragon wounds, she said softly. These are knife marks human made, but not from him. The pack murmured in shock. Razgar growled. He fought someone. The healer nodded. Yes, and he fought hard. But look closer. She tilted the human's body slightly. Beneath his arm, hidden from casual sight, was something tied carefully with cloth. A torn dragon wing membrane. Tiny, fragile, and stitched by a human hand. The healer whispered, voice full of awe. He repaired a baby's wing with his own clothes, with his own blood. Razgar felt the ground shift under him. Zaira shook her head violently. No human would do that. They only break wings, never fix them. The healer pointed again, then explained the rest. She revealed the human's backpack. The top was burned, but the contents spilled out. A small heater set to low warmth, a canteen half empty, and strips of fabric that smelled sharply of medicine, all cut into pieces, all used on the babies. Razgar stared in disbelief. This human, he whispered, used everything on my children? The healer nodded. He gave them warmth, water, medicine, and his own body to shield them. Razgar's throat felt tight. He didn't want to believe, but the truth was burning right in front of him. Zaira snarled, desperate to hold on to her anger. This could be a trap. He only wanted to gain their trust. The healer replied sharply, babies do not bond with liars. They sleep only beside those who protect them. Razgar knew this. Every dragon did. It was an ancient instinct, a deep truth. A hatchling's heart could never be fooled. Razgar looked again at the human's injuries, the deep wounds, the bruises, the crushed ribs, the marks left behind by humans, not dragons. He whispered he was hunted. The healer nodded. Yes, he was running. He carried the babies for a long distance. He fought off the poachers. He kept going even after injury. Razgar stepped closer, lowering his head until his face hovered just above the human's. Why? He whispered. Why would a human do this? No one answered, because the answer was too strange, too unexpected. For the first time, Razgar saw not an enemy, not a threat, but a man who had pushed his own body past its limit to protect creatures not his own. A man who had saved dragon hatchlings, even when he had nothing left to give. A man who deserved to be alive. He pulled back and looked at his pack with new eyes. This human risked everything to save our young. Zaira hissed, but he is still human. Razgar roared so loudly the trees shook. And he saved them and we could not. Zaira froze. The pack fell silent. The truth was a blade cutting through their old beliefs. Everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. Or at least, this human was the exception they never imagined could exist. Razgar took a deep breath. His next words tasted heavy, but powerful. The hatchlings know him. They trust him. Their hearts have chosen him. But how? Zaira whispered, lost. The healer answered gently. Because he was the first warm thing they felt after pain. Because he held them when they cried. Because he gave all he had and asked for nothing. Razgar turned toward the darkness where the poachers waited. And those humans, his eyes burned with fire, they are the ones who deserve our rage. As if hearing him, the poacher's voice rang out again, mocking. Dragons, hand over the hatchlings, and maybe we'll let one of you run away. The pack erupted with furious roars. Razgar's wings spread wide, fire flickering along the edges. No, he growled. Tonight we fight. He looked down at the human, and he fights with us. The hatchlings chirped softly, pressing close to their human protector. The red dragons turned as one. The storm of war was about to begin. The poachers stepped out of the shadows one by one, their boots crunching on leaves like breaking bones. Their metal armor glinted under the moonlight, and their weapons hummed with deadly power. These were not simple hunters. These were trained killers, experts in capturing rare creatures, especially dragon hatchlings. And tonight, they saw something better than gold, a whole dragon pack. The leader of the poachers, a tall man with a scar across his jaw, grinned like a wolf. His voice cut through the darkness. Well, look at this. Dragons, babies, and one unlucky human. Looks like we're catching everything tonight. Razgar stepped forward, wings rising high like two burning mountains. Leave. Now. The poacher laughed. Or what? You'll breathe on us. Zaira roared, flames bursting from her jaws. We will burn your bones." The poachers did not move. They did not even flinch. Instead, they raised their weapons, sleek, black rifles shaped with long barrels, glowing a sick crimson color. The healer dragon gasped. "Leader, those weapons are designed for dragons." Razker's eyes narrowed. "How do they have them?" The poacher leader shrugged. "Oh, we test everything on your kind. You dragons scream so nicely." The pack growled as one. But Razker kept his focus. He turned slightly, checking the human and hatchlings behind him. The babies were pressed tightly against the man's chest, their eyes wide with fear. They were still too weak from their earlier wounds. If a single poacher reached them, they would not survive. And the human? He had not woken. That thought hit Razker like a punch. He needed the man awake. He needed him fighting. But the human lay still, pale, arms limp, breath shallow. Razker felt his heart twist angrily. "You fought to protect our children. Now let us protect you." But the poachers were already moving. "Spread out," their leader ordered. "Bring me the babies. Kill the adult dragons." The forest erupted into chaos. The first strike. Zaira shot into the air, fire exploding from her wings. She launched a burning blast at the poachers. But the humans raised a shield device, an electric dome, blocking the flames instantly. Zaira screeched. "They block fire?" Razker roared. "Use claws, break their shield." The dragons charged, but the poachers' weapons crackled with electric pulses. Blue arcs of lightning shot out, striking Razker's flank. Sparks exploded across his scales. He growled in pain, but stayed on his feet. The poachers were stronger than expected, smarter, prepared. One of them aimed at the healer. "Target the small ones first." "They're easy." Razker lunged, knocking over a tree as he rammed the poacher away. "Nobody touches my pack." The poachers stumbled back, regrouping. Their leader aimed his rifle straight at the human, lying on the ground. "This human is in our way, too." The hatchlings shrieked in terror, huddling over the man. Razker's heart nearly stopped. "No!" He sprang forward with terrifying speed. The ground split under his claws as he crashed between the poacher leader and the human. The rifle fired. A red beam sliced through the night and hit Razker's chest. The force sent him sliding back, claws digging into dirt. Smoke rose from the wound. Scales cracked open, blood glowing like molten fire. Zaira screamed, "Leader!" But Razker stood firm. He placed his wings around the human, and hatchlings like a living shield. His voice, low and deadly, shook the air. "You want him? You want my children? Then you go through me." The poacher leader spat on the ground. "Fine." He raised his hand. "Open fire." The entire poacher squad unleashed a storm of energy bullets. A human wakes. The noise struck Evan's ears like distant thunder. His body was weak, numb, burning with pain. But something sharp cut through his fading consciousness. The terrified cries of the hatchlings. And a roar, so loud, so full of fury, that it shook him awake. Razker's roar. Evan's eyes shot open. The world around him was a blur of fire, metal, and madness. Dragons flying, poachers shooting, the ground exploding around him. And above him, Razker bleeding, shielding all four of them. The hatchlings cried and crawled desperately to Evan's chest. Evan forced his weak arms to rise. He reached for them, pulling the babies close. "I'm here. I'm here." The smallest hatchling pushed its head under his chin, trembling. Evan tried to stand but collapsed instantly. He looked up, straight into Razker's burning red eyes. And in those eyes, Evan saw something impossible. Respect, recognition, and a question. "Will you fight?" Evan swallowed hard, pushing through pain. He reached for a fallen metal pole nearby. Heavy, jagged, still warm from fire. His hand shook, but he lifted it. Razker gave a small nod. That was the moment Evan understood. He wasn't protecting the hatchlings alone anymore. He was fighting alongside dragons. The turning point. The poachers saw Evan stand. "Ah!" Their leader grinned. "The hero wakes up." He aimed his rifle straight at Evan's heart. The hatchling screamed. Razgar inhaled sharply, ready to throw himself in front of the blast. But Evan moved first. He stepped in front of the babies, pole gripped tight in his bloody hands. Stay away from them. The poacher fired. Evan swung the pole, smashing the rifle's barrel sideways. The shot exploded into the dirt, sending dust into the air. The dragons froze. Zaira whispered, stunned. He protected them. Razgar's voice was low, full of something powerful. He is one of us now. The poachers backed away, realizing their mistake. They had not just angered dragons. They had awakened something far more dangerous. A human willing to die for dragon hatchlings. And that meant the fight was only beginning. Razgar spread his wings wide. Red dragons attack. The night lit up with fire. The night exploded into fire and lightning. Razgar roared so loudly the sky itself seemed to shake. Red flames burst from his jaws, tearing across the ground toward the poachers. Trees snapped. Dirt lifted. Shadows broke apart. The forest became a war zone in a single heartbeat. The poachers fired back instantly. Energy beams slashed through the air like burning spears. Explosions ripped open the ground, sending sparks into the sky. The dragons dodged, dove, attacked, wings beating like thunder. Their scales glowed in the firelight, turning them into living storms. But the poachers weren't ordinary humans. They moved as a unit, fast, precise, deadly. Each held a weapon designed to hurt dragons. Lightning rifles, shock grenades, energy nets. The poacher leader shouted commands like he'd studied dragon combat for years. Team Alpha, take the wings. Team Beta, aim for the throat. Team Gamma, secure the babies. Evan's heart froze. The hatchlings pressed against him, trembling as the poachers advanced. No, Evan whispered. You're not taking them. His body screamed in pain. His legs shook, but he tightened his grip on the metal pole, arms steady despite his weakness. Razgar landed in front of him like a crimson wall of rage. No one reaches them. The dragon growled. Zaira shot past Razgar, diving straight into a group of poachers. She slammed one into a tree with a roar, sending his weapon flying. Another tried to fire at her, but she twisted mid-air, tail whipping across his helmet and knocking him flat. But more poachers appeared behind her. 4, 6, 10. Zaira hissed, there are too many. Razgar didn't look away from a human and babies he was guarding. Then we fight harder. A giant shock grenade rolled across the dirt. Its lights blinked. Red, red, red. Down! Evan shouted. Razgar wrapped his wings around him, shielding all 4. Boom! Electricity exploded outward, lighting the entire forest in blinding blue. The shock wave slammed into Zaira, throwing her across the ground. She hit a boulder with a sickening thud and didn't stand. Her wings twitched. Her eyes dimmed. Zaira! The healer cried. The poachers cheered. One dragon down. Razgar inhaled sharply. Zaira! But he couldn't help her. Not yet. Not while the hatchlings clung to Evan's shirt and cried in terror. The poacher leader pointed toward Evan. Target the human. He's weak. He'll fall first. Evan stepped forward again, lifting the pole with both hands. No, he said firmly, voice shaking but strong. I won't fall. Not while they need me. The smallest hatchling chirped, a frightened, desperate sound, burying its head in his chest. Razgar watched this, and something inside him snapped. A protective instinct older than time itself awakened in him. He stepped beside Evan, towering like a mountain. You will not stand alone, Razgar said. Evan blinked. You're protecting me? Razgar growled softly. We protect those who protect our young. The poachers didn't wait. They rushed in. Evan swung first. He smashed the pole into a poacher's armor, knocking the man sideways. A second poacher lunged. Evan ducked, grabbed the fallen rifle, and smashed it across the attacker's visor. The hatchlings cried loudly, sparks reflecting in their tiny eyes. Razgar covered Evan's back, claws slicing through electric nets and metal armor. He moved with unmatched fury. Every attack fueled by instinct anger and something even stronger, Respect. Two poachers circled Evan. One aimed for his legs. The other aimed for the babies. Evan pivoted, blocking the first, but the second reached for the smallest hatchling. Evan's heart exploded with panic. He lunged, slamming his shoulder into the poacher. The impact sent pain shooting through his ribs. But he didn't care. He wrapped his body around the hatchlings, shielding them just as Razgar had shielded him. The poacher's blade slashed downward. Razgar grabbed the attacker with his jaws and threw him into a tree, so hard the trunk cracked. "You touch my children," Razgar growled, "and you die." The night turns. The dragons fought hard. Evan fought harder. But the poachers kept coming. Their numbers didn't end. Their weapons didn't run dry. They moved like shadows, like trained assassins. The healer cried out, "Leader, they are pushing us back." Energy blasts struck the ground around them. The forest caught flame. Smoke billowed. The air burned hot. Razgar roared, but even he could feel it. They were losing ground. Zaira was still down. The healer was wounded. Two other dragons were bleeding heavily. And Evan was swaying, panting, barely standing. The poacher leader raised a new device, small, silver, glowing with dragon energy. "Time to end this," he said. "Say goodbye to your little pets." He threw it. The device spun through the air, humming louder and louder, aimed directly at Evan and the babies. Razgar's eyes widened. "Move!" But Evan didn't dodge. He wrapped himself around the hatchlings, arms tight, back exposed. The device hit the ground and exploded with a blinding flash of white energy. A shock wave tore through the clearing. Dust flew. Fire sparked. The world went silent. For a moment, no one moved. Razgar's heart stopped. Evan? Smoke filled the air. The human silhouette appeared slowly, still kneeling, still shielding the babies. He had taken the full blast. Razgar felt something powerful rise inside him, a rage so ancient and strong that it burned brighter than any flame he had ever breathed. The poacher leader laughed. "Look, he's barely alive. One more blast." Razgar cut him off with a roar, so loud the poacher stumbled backward in terror. "I warned you," Razgar said, voice shaking with fury. He spread his wings wide, fire crackling from every scale. "You hurt him. You hurt our young. Now you face a dragon's wrath." The night itself seemed to tremble. The final battle was about to begin. The world was silent for one heavy second after the blast. Smoke swirled. Ash floated like black snow. The trees around the clearing glowed with dying fire. And through the gray haze, Evan knelt on the ground, body shaking, arms wrapped around the hatchlings. Alive. Barely. But alive. Razgar stared at him, disbelief and fury burning inside him like molten lava. No dragon, no warrior would have taken that blast and survived. But this human had stood in front of death for children that were not even his. And for the first time in his long life, Razgar felt something new, respect so deep it almost hurt. The poacher leader stepped forward, holding another glowing device. "Well," he said, grinning, "if one blast didn't kill him, maybe this one will finish the job." Razgar's eyes snapped open, red flames burning inside them. "No," he growled, the ground shaking under his voice. "You will not touch him again." The poacher leader laughed. "And who will stop me?" Razgar's wings flared like two burning suns. "I will." The dragon's wrath. What happened next was so fast, so violent, that even the poachers barely saw it. Razgar launched himself into the air with a thunderous crack. His wings slammed downward, sending a shockwave that blew dust and leaves into a spinning tornado. He dived straight toward the poacher leader like a burning comet. "Fire!" the leader screamed. Too late. Razgar hit him with the force of a crashing star. The ground split. Fire burst upward. The poacher leader flew backward, smashing through a boulder and collapsing in a heap of broken armor. The other poachers panicked. "Retreat! Fall back! We can't stop him!" They fired wildly, but Razgar was unstoppable now. His anger had transformed him into something terrifying, a master of fire, rage, and ancient power. He tore through the humans like a whirlwind of claws and flame. One swipe of his tail crushed 2 rifles. One blast of fire melted a shock shield. One strike of his claws sent poachers flying into the trees. Zaira, injured but breathing, slowly rose. A low snarl escaped her as she saw Evan kneeling in the clearing. He saved them, he saved us. With a roar, she leaped into the sky and joined the fight. The healer, wings torn but strong in spirit, followed. Soon the entire red dragon pack rose behind Razgar. Fire lit the night like a second sun. The poachers finally broke. Retreat! Dragons everywhere. We're done. Run. They fled into the forest, dropping weapons, dropping supplies, dropping everything. And the dragons chased them out of the woods, making sure they never dare return. When the screaming stopped and the fire dimmed, the clearing fell eerily silent. Smoke drifted lazily upward. The smell of burned metal filled the air. Razgar turned back toward Evan. The human leaned forward, trembling with exhaustion. His breathing was shallow, eyes half closed, but his arms were still wrapped around the hatchlings, as if his body refused to stop protecting them. The smallest baby nudged his face. A weak smile touched Evan's lips. "Hey, little guy, you okay?" Razgar's heart twisted. He approached slowly, lowering his giant body until he lay on the ground beside the human. The hatchlings chirped excitedly, crawling from Evan's arms onto Razgar's forelegs. But they didn't leave Evan completely. They kept touching him, as if afraid he would disappear. Razgar bent his head low until his nose was only inches from a human's face. "Human," he said softly, "you protected what is ours. You bled for them. You stood against death itself." Evan's voice was barely a whisper. "I just didn't want them hurt." Razgar felt something heavy inside his chest, something like pride. "You are strange," he said. "Stranger than any human I have ever seen." Evan laughed weakly. "I get that a lot." Zaira limped closer, lowering her head. "I misjudged you," she said. "Forgive me." Evan blinked. "You don't owe me an apology." Zaira shook her head. "But I do. You fought for our young. We saw your courage. We saw your heart." The healer approached next, checking the human's wounds carefully. "He needs rest, food, warmth. He won't survive another night without help." Razgar rose and looked at his pack. "Then he will not face the night alone." Razgar turned to Evan. "Human, what is your name?" "Evan," he whispered. Razgar nodded once, a deep, respectful bow. "Evan, from this night forward, you are under protection of the Red Dragon Pack." Evan blinked, shocked. I don't understand." "You save our children," Razgar said. "And in dragon law, a protector of hatchlings becomes family." Evan stared up at him, stunned. "Family?" The smallest hatchling climbed onto Evan's chest again, chirping happily. Razgar's voice softened. "They have already chosen you. Dragons do not break their bonds. And now neither do we." Zaira added, "Your life is tied to ours." The healer whispered, "Where you go, we follow." Evan felt his eyes sting, not from pain, but from something warmer. He looked at the babies snuggling against him, at the massive dragons watching him with respect, at Razgar, the fiercest dragon he had ever seen, bowing his head to him, and he realized something. He was no longer alone. Razgar stepped closer. "Come, Evan, ride with us." "Ride?" Evan echoed. Razgar lowered his enormous body to the ground, wings folding gently. "Climb onto my back," the dragon said. "Tonight, you fly with dragons." Evan slowly pushed himself up, the hatchlings clinging to him with happy chirps. He placed a hand on Razgar's warm scales and pulled himself onto the dragon's back. Razgar spread his wings. The wind rose. The pack gathered behind him, and the red dragons lifted into the sky, carrying their new human family member with them. The world below burned, but above, in the sky full of stars, something new began, a bond older than war, stronger than fear, a bond between dragons and a human brave enough to love their young. The galaxy would never forget it.